Yes.
Ready? And three, two, one.
Sue Online and on TV have teamed up with Sault Ste. Marie's Chamber of Commerce to help our local businesses affected by COVID-19. On the special report that we air at 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. daily, we highlight local businesses and how they're keeping together to keep the community together. For today's hashtag In This Together SSM, we are privileged to have our Mayor, Christian Provenzano, join us. Hello, Mayor. How are you today?
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody. Appreciate the opportunity
Well,
to be
we,
on.
we appreciate you taking your time. We know you're busy. We know you've got lots on the go. But first off, let me ask you, how are you coping, not only as mayor, but as a father and a husband? How is your family handling this? Because I'm sure you're busy trying to keep the city calm, but has anybody asked you how you and your family are doing?
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. So my wife and my three little girls are all doing really well. We're, I think, ending 3 weeks now that my wife really hasn't left the house very much, and my little girls haven't seen either sets of grandparents or socialized outside of our little family unit. So, they're getting a little antsy, but we're grateful and we're blessed, and they're all doing well, and we're focused on making sure that that they're safe. All I'm doing myself is taking care of my family and coming to City Hall when I need to be here. Uh, I closed our law office to the public over 3 weeks ago, and we're going to keep it closed for the next couple of weeks just to assess how things are going. So, look, things are good, and I'm focused entirely on my job here at City Hall and making sure we get the message out that we need to get out to the community.
Well, that's great. That's good to hear. As I mentioned in our intro, our campaign is highlighting local businesses. You are offering conference calls weekly, I do believe. I'm wondering how that's going, how the businesses are responding to that, and what the response has been.
Look, it's been very active. So there's been a lot of people are engaged, and I look. There's a ton of economic instability right now, and a ton of economic anxiety. It's really not clear how things are going to rebound when we get out of this really intense pandemic response. But I think what's critical to recognize is that we will get out of this quicker, and we'll get out of this better if we all follow the same set of rules. And those rules are pretty simple from my perspective. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, we need you to self-isolate. If you don't have COVID-19 symptoms, we need you to stay home. And if you do go out, we need you to practice physical distancing. Our businesses across the community have been tremendous. A number of them have adjusted to these changes. A number of them have decided that they need to go on a hiatus and close up for a period, and that's understandable. And a number of them have to close up because of the essential services orders. So there's a lot of people that are challenged and that are making sacrifices, and I want to recognize them. But I believe very deeply in the strength of the entrepreneurs in this community and the business community. And I believe if we all focus on getting out of this pandemic response stage and trying to get life back to normal as quickly as possible, that will rebound well.
Great, thank you. So your initial action plan when you took over as mayor this term has had to change drastically amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. Can you tell us a little bit more about the city's action plan, what you've done, and the changes you've made?
Okay, so look, we did a lot of great work over the last term that this council was carrying on with and focusing on some really community development projects, and we can say that a lot of that stuff has essentially taken a backseat to our COVID-19 response. The work's still not done, and the work's still there, and there's work we can move forward with, and I'm confident that we will move forward with over the course of the council term. But come the last couple months, we have been entirely focused on a community on our COVID-19 response, and we're working closely with Algonquin Public Health. We're working closely with the DSAB, sewer hospitals, to focus on and make sure that we can maintain the health and well-being of our community. So you're right to identify that a lot of the other work that we've been doing is taking a back seat to what we're doing now, and we are entirely focused and will stay entirely focused on maintaining our services, making sure that we keep our community safe, and making sure that we provide for the well-being of the community.
Okay, great. That's a good segue for my next question for you. As you know, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is holding a press conference today to release more data, saying it would serve as a wake-up call for some Ontario residents. Right now, we have 6 reported cases in Algoma. What are your expectations for Sault Ste. Marie after this press conference? As I imagine it's going to stirs some fear or perhaps some anxiety in our residents, as well as do you have any further plans to take action to keep our numbers low in the city?
So look, what we're going to do is we're going to pay attention to what the premier is saying, like everybody else. And I want to recognize the premier for his work during this crisis. I think it's been good work, but I think it's important that we have that information. And I think it'll be some pretty sobering data. But I would encourage people not to react in a panic way to that data. What I'd encourage people to do is learn about COVID-19, and they can do that at Algoma Public Health. And then I would encourage them to do two things. The first thing is understand and respect your legal obligations. There's a federal quarantine order. And if you are traveling into the country from outside of the country, whether that's Michigan or whether that is anywhere else in the United States or Europe or the world, if you're coming back into Canada, it is law. You must self-isolate. So we need to make sure people know that. And if people are breaking that law, we need to make sure that the authorities know that so we can enforce that law. So that's step one. The second step is you have to learn about what the COVID-19 symptoms are. And if you have those symptoms, you have to recognize that you are required to self-isolate. So it's important that you understand what self-isolation means and is. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, self-isolation doesn't mean you stay at home and you go out for walks. Self-isolation means you stay in your house and you isolate. If you don't have COVID-19 symptoms, we still want you to stay home. But if you have to go out, you should practice physical distancing. So that means that you don't interact with anybody outside of your immediate family, and you keep 2 meters of distance between you and anybody that you might have an interaction with. You minimize your trips to the grocery store and the drugstore, and you try and minimize the number of people in your household that will be making those trips. So we need to get those messages out. We need to make sure that we're all doing the same things. The federal government has a quarantine order. The provincial government has a number of orders on essential businesses and non-essential businesses and social gatherings. The premier made an order that there is no social or public gatherings over 5 people. And we have to make sure we enforce that. And Sault Ste. Marie Police Services has been clear that they are going to enforce that. So what we're asking people, and the sacrifice we're asking people to make, is learn about COVID-19, learn about the restrictions that you have to follow as a citizen, and then learn about what we're asking you to do as recommendations, and we're asking you to follow them. We're not asking for significant sacrifices here. We're asking people to stay at home and minimize their social interaction. The best way we get through this quickly is if we all follow the same set of rules. And the reality is, if we don't pass this virus along to each other, the virus will die. The virus is a very contagious virus, so it doesn't take much effort or much interaction to pass it along, so we have to minimize those things.
Thank you. I'd just actually like to recognize our police services. I'm sure they're busy trying to make sure that we are all staying within the legal limits that you just mentioned. But let's move over to the fire services for a moment. We're under a fire ban in Ontario. Can you tell us more about that and what that means for our city?
Yeah, well, look, we actually decided not to issue fire permits in Sault Ste. Marie. And the reason why we did decide to do that was the fire chief, I apologize. The fire chief thought it was important to minimize the public interaction of our suppression officers with the public. And if you want a fire permit, the firefighters actually go into your house and make sure you have the right infrastructure in your house if there is a fire, so they make sure you have your smoke alarms and your smoke alarms are functional. And the fire chief wanted to minimize that interaction. The fire chief also wanted to make sure that we weren't encouraging significant social engagement. And a small fire in someone's backyard can turn into a bit of a neighborhood get together, and that we were looking to discourage that. But the reality is, for the time being, you can't have a fire in your backyard in Sault Ste. Marie. So independent of the provincial fire ban, we're not permitting any fires, and we're not doing that for one main reason: to keep our firefighters isolated and safe, and make sure that our firefighters don't get COVID-19, because if somebody in a platoon gets COVID-19, the platoon can get COVID-19, and it can significantly hamper the city's ability to fight a fire if we have a fire. And we also don't want to do anything as a municipality that encourages a social get-together. We don't want to encourage that type of activity. We want to discourage that activity right now, and we want to encourage people not to socialize outside their immediate families.
Okay, great. That's great. We reported on our morning show, or in our special report the other day, about the social services and the city has teamed up to rent a building. I believe it was a senior center at one time to accommodate the homeless during this time. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And first of all, and again, I'd like to recognize your efforts on that. I think that's a fantastic initiative.
Yeah. So listen, I thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. But I really want to recognize the leadership of the DSAB, Mike Nadeau and his team at Social Services, his frontline staff at Social Services, and the leadership at Social Services for really focusing on what people in our community who have a greater need, what they need and how we can provide for them. So they've had a real focus on food insecurity, and we're helping on some food insecurity issues. And they've had a focus on homelessness and how we can support people that aren't stably or properly homed right now. So the DSAB is going to be renting the Steelton Center. The Steelton Center is a building the city owns for $1. We approved that at our last council meeting, and they've already started work on retrofitting that building, and that building will be up and running shortly to provide additional shelter services in our community. And that's a really positive initiative.
Yes.
DSAB has also secured some rooms for people that are homeless and need to self-isolate, so they could help people that don't have a place to self-isolate, and we were happy to support its efforts to do that. So in a lot of the work that's going on, I am supportive of it and I am helping people, but it's a lot of other people doing a lot of heavy lifting, and I don't want to take credit for anybody else's really great work. And I want to recognize the people across the community, from Surrey hospitals, from Algoma Public Health, from the DSAP, who are doing this work. And I want to tell Sueites across the community, you have great leadership in this city and the agencies in this city that are really working hard for you, really working hard to keep you safe. I'm proud to be part of that and to be supporting them. And it's important that we all recognize what we can do to keep them safe. And we have all kinds of people in our community that are going to work every day at the grocery stores.
Yep.
We have all kinds of people in our community that are going to work every day at the pharmacies. And we have our transit operators who are going to work every day to move people around the city that have appointments, that have to get to a doctor's appointment and whatnot. And it's important that we recognize the sacrifices that our frontline workers are making and our healthcare workers are making, and the people that work in our emergency department and right across our hospital. And what we can do for them to help them stay safe is we can stay home.
Great. And again, that's the exact reason, Mayor Provenzano, why we have this campaign, hashtag In This Together SSM. So yes, thank you to everybody who's putting their best foot forward. A couple more questions for you, Mayor, as I know you're busy. I am a mother of two children. One is 9, and he loves to play soccer. He asked me the other day, well, what does this mean, Mommy? Do I get to play soccer with my friends this summer? So I'm asking you, Mayor, what do you see for summer programs and how that's going to affect our children this summer in the Sioux?
Yeah, there's a real issue there with timing. So if we don't come out of this sooner rather than later, there won't be summer programs. We won't have people congregating to play soccer or to play baseball.
Okay.
But if we work together and we follow the same set of rules and we all do what we're supposed to do, we might very well see those things this summer. But as it stands, we can't make a decision on that. Right now, it's actually legal to congregate in groups of more than 5. Well, so that's gonna you're not going to be able to have people to come to the parks to play soccer if that law is still in place. So what we have to do is we have to focus on the here and now. We have to focus on what we need to do to get out of this pandemic sooner rather than later, and quicker and better. And what we do is follow the same set of rules. And I've said those a few times, and I'll say them again, I'm sure, before this interview is over. So we have to make decisions on our summer programming. But what we need to do is we need to get through the current stage before we can make those decisions. Because as it currently stands, we couldn't have a bunch of kids get together to play soccer. We couldn't have kids get together to play baseball.
That's right. Yeah, it's just a concern. I mean, as a parent, you're trying to keep your kids safe. They do ask a lot of questions. We do shelter them. They're not going out. So it's, you have to answer these questions of very sad little faces. So let's hope that.
I understand. My 4-year-old the other day told me that she missed her friends at school, or preschool, and she asked me when she can go back to see them. And it's tough to explain that, and it's just something that we have to deal with right now and face head on, and recognize the better we work together, the quicker we'll get through it.
Absolutely, Mayor. One last question for you. I would like you to take the time and take the opportunity to send a message to the city. What would you like to tell our fine city today?
Yeah. So I want to reiterate the message I've been trying to make throughout. There's a lot of people working across the community to keep us safe. There's a lot of people that are going to work because they have to go to work to keep us safe. And out of respect for those people, Out of self-care and taking care of yourself and taking care of your loved ones, it's important that we all follow the same set of rules. And here they are. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, you need to self-isolate. If you are coming back into Canada from out of country, you need to self-isolate. If neither of those things apply to you, we still want you to stay home. If you can't stay home and you have to go out, we need you to practice physical distancing. Go to gomapublichealth.com and learn about these things. Talk to your family and your friends and your relatives about them, and encourage everybody to follow them. We will get through this, Sault Ste. Marie, and we will get through this stronger, and we will get through this better if we work together. And we work together by staying home. So I want to end by thanking all of those people in our community who are making sacrifices daily to keep us safe and to keep our community healthy. I want to recognize them for their leadership and express my appreciation for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Provenzano. That's good. That was a great segment for our hashtag In This Together SSM. We appreciate what everyone's doing. I wish you a happy Friday and keep safe.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.